All right, guys, welcome back in. We're doing actual forward-looking football content, right? This is crazy. We haven't really had anything in the sports world, but the NFL is keeping us on schedule with thinking about different topics about the future year if it comes to fruition. And I think we hit this out of the park last year with our live mock draft. So I wanted to bring it back to the Browns Film Breakdown YouTube channel, bring it back to the podcast for audio version as well, and hopefully you guys can enjoy this. I bring back two of my favorites, Brendan Leister, Pro Football Focus. Brendan, how are you, buddy?
Doing good, man. Looking forward to it. How are you?
I'm good, my friend. I'm good. And I bring here Mike Krupka, our man, Nothing But the Dogs podcast, which is doing fantastic stuff and still contributing over at Dogs by Nature. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. How about you?
I'm good, guys. I'm good. I think this will be fun because I have a lot of good draft banter with these fellas, and we carved out a little bit of time in our – I guess we're not busy, but we kind of are busy, right? Like, got to find something to do with our significant others, but we can get a little time to ourselves here to talk football. So we're going to do the draft network, predictive board and all that fun stuff we did last year. We have simmed through the first 9 picks. Some surprises come off the board here for the podcast listeners. Burrow goes 1, Chase Young goes 2nd, Jeffrey Kuda goes 3rd, so it holds to relatively normal. Then Clavon Chase, help me out here, guys. Is it Chason? Am I saying that right?
Chase on.
Caleb Chase on. Look at these guys. Killing me. A severe surprise there. I don't know if the Giants go that direction, but they do weird things in New York. Nonetheless, he has gone early. The Dolphins take their tackle, Tristan Wirfs, one of the Browns' interesting targets, has gone there at 5. Isaiah Simmons, another Browns target, has gone at 6 to the Chargers. Pick 7, Derek Brown goes to the Panthers. Is it Mekhi or Mekhi? Mekhi Becton?
Mekhi,
that's what I figured. My speech guys are here with me to help me out. They go to the Cardinals at 8, and then Javon Kinlaw goes 9 to from South Carolina, goes to the Jags. So on the board of the highest ranked through the Draft Network's big board is Tua Tagovailoa is their 3rd ranked prospect still on the board, which it's feasible. We talked about this, that Tua could drop due to medicals and teams not feeling quite comfortable being able to get him in-house and talk to him and see how he's recovering. Justin Herbert is their 4th ranked prospect still on the board. And then we get into sort of the Browns territory here, which is Andrew Thomas, Jedrick Wills still on the board, among other offensive tackles, Josh Jones, Ezra Cleveland, and of the likes are also Austin Jackson. Many names in that second sort of air quotes second tier of tackles are all there. So this is where things get interesting. I'm going to put this on the floor. We'll start with Brendan. You look at pick 10 based on what the board shows. Are you compelled to pick here, or would you consider a trade down, or talking to somebody about a trade down? Teams might be moving up for a quarterback. They might want to come get Tua. They might want to come get Herbert. Are you going to be on the side of trying to get your tackle of choice here, or would you consider a move back?
I think for me, I would be interested to hear what teams that are interested in a quarterback, what they are willing to offer to move up. But then at the same time, I really like Andrew Thomas a lot. I do like Josh Jones quite a bit, and it looks like based on this predictive board that we would be able to drop back quite a bit probably and get him, but still it's a risk. And then after those two, I do like Ezra Cleveland, but, he's not quite up there for me. So I would be interested in hearing what the QB needy teams are willing to offer, or even the wide receiver needy teams, because I think after pick 10, there's probably going to be quite a few teams in a row that are all looking to jockey for position to get a wide receiver. But it really just comes down to the offer. I would be really interested in getting another 2nd round pick, especially. But yeah, I would also be comfortable with taking Andrew Thomas at 10.
Absolutely. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I see at least two or three teams on the board that I think we could try to maneuver a trade with. I'm a big fan of Josh Jones, so like Brendan said, I would love to explore at least the possibility of moving back to 15 or 18 with maybe the Broncos or the Dolphins, and to see if we can land Jones there and potentially net an extra 2nd round pick.
I'm with you. I think if I look at this board based on teams that would be really hungry to move up to get a guy that is still on the board, I lean 18 with the Dolphins, and I still think we could get a really good player there at tackle. So we will try to move to 15 or 18, see what we can get, and we will come back with what the Draft Network gives us here as a result. So in real time, we just wasted about 10 minutes of each other's time going back and forth on trades that we never made. We decided to sit still. We offered a couple deals to I think 15 for the Broncos, maybe moving up for Henry Ruggs or something along those lines, a wide receiver of their choice. Then we went to 18, which is the Dolphins potentially moving up for a quarterback. None of them accepted the idea of giving us back a second-round pick. In reality, real life, I think it's a bit more feasible. I think those teams might be hungry for a playmaker from Denver, and they are definitely going to be quarterback hungry in Miami. So it probably comes to fruition, but they denied us, and we had an internal discussion. Would we move back to pick 19 Oakland, pick 21 Philly, or pick 22? And we came to the consensus of no. Brendan, why did you pick no?
Because I'm a lot more comfortable with Andrew Thomas. I like Josh Jones as a player who would have been our target if we had moved back, but I think Andrew Thomas just looks like the tackle that in most classes goes in the top 5. I've thought that all along since I saw him for the first time. I just think everything about his profile is that he's going to be a good, solid starting offensive tackle in the NFL for a long time, and I really like his fit for the Browns as a pass protector and also in the wide zone scheme. So I'm just really comfortable with him at 10.
Mike?
Yeah, I won't repeat that stuff, but I'll talk about the value that we saw in the trades. And I think that's, for me, in addition to the evaluation of the player, where that makes the most sense to stay put and pick Thomas. If we would have got a better return for what we were offering, I think it could have become more of a discussion. But as it is, let's pick the big man and move on with it.
All right, so we're going to put in the card, or we're going to Skype call, or however they're going to do it this year. You're going to pick Andrew Thomas.
Do you guys want to say anything about why we didn't take Wills just as this is going on? Because I know some people are going to look at this and they're going to say, well, why didn't they take Wills? A lot of people are saying he's the best tackle. Like,
Mike, go ahead.
His thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be an interesting debate. I think Wills as both in both phases, pass blocking and rush blocking, is excellent. I think it's really just going to come down to preference, and I would be open to either player, to be quite honest. Looking at Wills's performance in the combine, I thought he had a lot of wow moments in the power department when I saw him moving and then translating that movement to power. I thought that was impressive. But yeah, I think it's really just going to come down to preference.
I'm with you. I see some issues, right tackle to left tackle, that is a transition. Like, he's good enough to do it, but I don't know. I need to, there's projection there. There's projection in the wide zone stuff. I think he's a good prospect. If Cleveland took him, I would certainly be supportive of it if they gave the right responses in their press conference about why they did it and why they believe in him, if they took him over some other guys that I think fit a little bit better. But if you watch his film, the dude's a mauler, and he's an athlete, and he can play. Like, I'd have no problem taking the guy at all. But I do think there are better fits right now. And I think Andrew Thomas is certainly a better fit for what Cleveland wants to do, and is a day one guy that I think you can plug at left tackle, place he's comfortable with. And you have two pretty solid tackles, and you can rock and roll. So, Brendan and I have this conversation all the time. We have fits, we have guys we like, but at the end of the day, they take who they take, and we hope that they make the right decision with something justifiable behind it, and don't say something that sounds like the ball sounds different coming off of his foot. We don't want those answers. We want real actual answers that make sense, right? So, but yeah, that's a good conversation. And, unfortunately we didn't get to have that conversation about Wirfs. He's gone early. That might be a conversation that gets had, and the Browns might have to have that about if they like Wirfs or if they like, and can trust him moving to the left side and all of that stuff. So we will see how that shakes out. And this won't be our only one of these leading into the draft, so we might have something different come along. The Falcons, there are two running backs taken the next few picks, which is just wild. Dobbins goes 16 to Atlanta, and DeAndre Swift goes 14 to the Bucs. That's not going to happen. I just don't see running backs going that.
Tampa Bay could have just called us. We would have given them Kareem Hunt if they just give us a 2.
That's all we want. I would even be talked into a 3.
Right. I agree 100%.
Yeah. Well, Tua goes to Jacksonville, which is even crazier. He goes to 20. Herbert goes to New England, which that would be something. Anyway, we'll keep going. Some of the interior defensive linemen that are of interest to us. Neville Gallimore is gone. Ross Blacklock is gone. Linebacker Kenneth Murray goes to the Ravens, of course, at pick 28. Linebacker Patrick Queen of interest, and linebacker Malik Harrison go early in the second round to
Brooks
Detroit,
too.
New York. Yep, Jordan Brooks is gone. Epinesa is gone, and now we're up to pick 41 with some interesting names on the board. So I'm interested in what you guys think in terms of names. Or let me say this. According to the Draft Network, the team needs are first and foremost offensive tackle, which we knocked out. Safety is the second team need, linebacker, third team need, interior offensive line, which to me is not ahead of defensive line. Like I just had this conversation with Jared Mueller. Like they're in the point next year where if guys don't perform well, they could only have Myles Garrett. Like they're losing Olivier Vernon, whether now or later. He's gone at the end of the year. You don't know what you're getting out of the interior defensive line. You got some guys you got high hopes for, and if they all play well, that's great. But if things don't go well for them and the value doesn't align, it's like Myles Garrett and you figure it out. So they need to draft interior D-line or D-end at some point. So that needs to be higher. So safety, linebacker, interior D-line is up there for me. Wide receiver also at some point will be up there for me. So based on these needs, fellas, let's talk through positions about what is available. So if we went interior defensive line, Justin Matabuke is available, Texas A&M. Raekwon Davis is available. Davon Hamilton's available. Ohio State. Jordan Elliott, Missouri is available. Rashard Lawrence from LSU is available. And we'll stop there. That's all that is inside the top 100. We will talk about edges that are available. Terrell Lewis from Alabama. Curtis Weaver from Boise State. Julian Okwara from Notre Dame. Joshua, help me out here, last name. Uche?
Uche.
Gotcha. Nailed it.
Uche.
Got it right. Uche is available. Jonathan Grenard is available. And Darrell Taylor, Tennessee, is available inside the top 100. You look at safeties. Antoine Winfield is available. Minnesota, Jeremy Chin, Southern Illinois available. Kyle Duggar. It's a big group of safeties available here. Ashton Davis, Cal product. Terrell Burgess, Utah. And then Kavon Wallace, also available inside the top 100. Do you guys see a player that you would like there, or would you want to move back? So the floor is yours. We'll start with Mike this time. What do you think, buddy?
Yeah, I think it's important with this pick to land a playmaker, not a guy that is going to develop. So I guess when I look at the safety group, the guy that jumps off the screen to me is Antoine Winfield. Definitely a playmaker, definitely a guy you can stick in the back and let him just make plays on the ball. I think a lot of the other safeties that are listed in the top 100 right now are more strong safeties. And so that's why I would lean there when it comes to the safeties. The other guy that's leaning or sticking out to me would be Justin Matabuike.
And I would say I shouldn't discount wide receiver. Like they're very talented wide receivers up there. If they're the best player available, they'll consider them. So if you have a guy there you're interested in, feel free to throw that out too.
Yeah, I mean, I threw out a draft that I really loved earlier, I think this week, with Laviska in there, and I think he would be a real good developmental guy, brings a huge amount of playmaking ability, was used in a lot of different roles, so isn't quite a polished wide receiver, so could use that extra year or so to really leverage OBJ and Landry and develop his route running. So he's a guy I would consider in this spot as well.
Yeah, I like Winfield. Actually, kind of disagree with you. Like, I don't view him as a free safety. I think of him more as a strong safety. Honestly, he's versatile. I think he's an interchangeable type guy, but he's not a type that I would want to just put back there as a single high guy and just have him roam the back end. I think that he's actually more of a playmaker when he gets closer to the ball. Just when I've studied him, I really like his instincts. He does have a lot of tackling issues. Like, he has a lot of whiffs on film, and he does have the injury history, which might cause him to actually drop on draft weekend. I could see him being a guy that drops that everybody's shocked by. But I do like him, and he is a playmaker. He has really good instincts. He can cover. I think there's some tightness to him. He's not quite as fluid and loose to some of these guys, but I think he is a talented playmaker. I agree with that. The receivers, I'll just say, Rager reminds – I don't think he's a very good route runner, and there's aspects of his game that remind me of a lesser Corey Coleman. I just don't think he's quite as explosive as Corey Coleman, with the long speed, and the route running leaves a lot to be desired. I don't really like him that much, with Chenault not not a polished route runner at all, and that's a really big turnoff for me. He reminds me of Cordero Patterson. Not a Higgins guy. He has like build-up speed, but he's not really explosive or quick.
It's true.
With Jeremy Chin is intriguing to me. He has a history. Like, he used to be a corner. I think Joe Woods I think he'll be intrigued by him. He's a really good athlete. I think he's a 99th percentile spark athlete. So I think that's going to have their attention. I could see them being really into Jeremy Chin. I do like Hamler as a speed guy, as a deep threat, but I don't know if I would take him at this value. And then I think the other guy that catches my eye, well, I'll just touch on Duggar really quick. I think with Duggar, like, I'm not sure the level of competition is the question mark with him. He just really like dominated the level of competition, and I think it's hard to really judge if I think it's a projection. Also his coverage ability. And then I think Matt Obike, I think we have to consider him for the interior defensive line need that you alluded to, Jake. And also the fact that this is not a very good interior defensive line class on the whole, I would say. And he looks like one of the names that really stands out in the group. So those are the guys that really I mentioned some guys that don't really have my attention, but also some that do. So, yeah, that's kind of how I stand on where the board looks right now.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting spot because there are some teams that I think might be hungry for a wide receiver in this tier group. And it's like, to me, I wouldn't be opposed to moving back a few spots here and maybe collecting an extra 4, 5, or 6, something along those lines. And I say we entertain that and see what we can come up with. So, okay, we talked about it. We offered so many trades, my fingers started to go numb. But we found a partner. We moved back a good way. I think that these deals on the Draft Network, look, I respect your work, the Draft Network, but you got to work on this trade algorithm because some things are going sideways. Teams are going to move up, and they're going to logically give up a third-round pick. We moved back big time. We moved back to pick 58. We did get back Minnesota's third-round pick, and we can do some things with 3 third-round picks. We still think at 58, this is like the very end of the second-round threshold that we like, so we pulled the trigger on it. So we'll see where they sort of set this board at the time. The Vikings moved up for a corner, so we're going to keep simming here all the way to our pick. So we'll go a couple picks before. So we're at pick 52. The Rams are on the board at pick 52. Is there anybody here like Curtis Weaver, Michael Pittman that you really, really like that you would want to say, hey, I really want to make sure we get that guy and we can maybe swing something? Or you just want to run it through to our pick?
I like Pittman a lot. I'm a big fan of him. I like him as a big slot guy that can also play X. I love his routes for a big athlete. I think he's a much better athlete than people give him credit for, and also has fantastic hands. So I'm a big fan of him. I've targeted him in pretty much all of these mocks that I've done.
Do you want to start for him?
As far as that is the question.
Because the Eagles are needing a wide receiver. I don't think they.
Did they take one in round 1? That's what we need to know.
Let's check it. Philly they did. They took Jerry Jeudy.
They took Jerry Jeudy. So they did not. They don't need one.
They don't need one. Are there any teams in front of us?
There's
I think the Texans. The Texans are going to be wide receiver hungry at pick 57. There's no doubt about that.
I also didn't realize how far. I didn't realize how far we were down. Also, I thought that was the only available players. But this list still looks very similar to what we were looking at 41. So I'm happy with what's on the board right now.
It does.
Yeah,
I like it.
yeah,
I'm going to stay here. We're going to stay here. Let's just run it.
Just stay.
We're pick gatherers, not pick givers. So we're going to resume this thing. Duggar goes, and we're up with – wow. Yeah. Some interesting selections that just happened.
The 2 that I was most interested in probably.
Let's make a choice, man. This gets fun, right? There's safeties. Chen is still on the board. Yep. Justin, is it Matabuke?
I looked it up, and it is Matabuke. I looked it up.
Matabuke. So you got the Hawaiian flair, Mike. I like how you say it, though. Ashton Davis is still available, Cal safety that has been floated around in this time frame. I'd be more comfortable with him here. Other guys, like I said, are available. Davon Hamilton, Ohio State interior defensive lineman, has moved up significantly on Draft Network's big board. He's the 60th ranked player still there. Curtis Weaver, Boise State, edge there. Michael Pittman is still there. Notre Dame's Julian Okwara is still there. Uche is still there. We got Isaiah Wilson as a tackle. Troutman, tight end, is still there. Bryce Hall, the corner. We got options, fellas. I like where we're sitting.
I like this a lot.
We're pick 74 is still not too far off. So we can look at – I'm going to put my vote out there, and then I'm going to let you two dig deep. I'm into Chin at this spot. I think the value is really good, and I think it's a position of need. And I do think there is a defensive tackle I still have my eye on that if it gets to the point let me see if he's still –
Who is it?
I'm going to show you. I really like Jordan Elliott. I really like him.
I do too.
I like him a lot.
Highest pass rushing grade in the country last year, PFF.
Yeah, that's even worth this pick if you ask me. So I'm just saying I do like Chin, though, for the value in this defense, like you mentioned, and the athlete that he is that will really catch their eye. So that's my vote, but I am not the decision maker in this whole thing. There's three of us here for a reason. You guys talk about it. Mike, go first.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't studied Chin extensively, so I don't really have a great feel for him, but I do know obviously his athletic profile is off the charts, as Brendan alluded to earlier. I would not be opposed to going safety here. We were in the market for a safety when we were at 41. So, and again, this board looks almost identical to what it looked like when we were all the way back there. So, going Chin now makes sense. I think if there's – let me ask you guys this. Is there another safety on the board besides Chin that you guys would have your eye on? Because we pick again in, 14 picks. So is there anybody else that you would say, okay, if we give up Chin, we can go get this guy and we feel equally the same about him?
I mean, Davis and Burgess are that tier below, but Brendan, you dig deep on those guys.
Yeah, my take on it is just doing quite a few of these mocks over the past few weeks. I really try to come out of it with two safeties, just given the Browns, the way the roster looks right now. Sendejo and Joseph are both on one-year deals. Both those guys are guys that probably aren't going to play 1,000 snaps, either of them, with Joseph's injury history. And then also, obviously, Redwine was a rookie last year. He's talented, but still, they need a lot of that position for the long term. So I would really like to come out of this draft with two safeties, and I would be comfortable with someone like Chin here, and then maybe taking Burgess with the extra third, or Kayvon Wallace, or even Geno Stone later. I know Geno Stone has a really good very good analytical profile. I know data scientists for PFF love that guy, and they think that he should be much higher in the class than he's projected right now. He's projected to be like a 4th or 5th round guy. I think he should probably be a day 2 guy for sure.
Yeah, I think the athletic testing stuff was a little flawed for him. I think he's a better football player. I just think I'm with you guys. The analytic profile and his film, he just moves better than what I think that the combine showed. So, listen, I'm into Geno Stone at some point. I don't know what that point is. They have him ranked 145th as their big board. I have him higher than that significantly. But yeah. I'm into Chin here. Do we like it? I mean, if you want to pound the table for someone that you really want, guys, then feel free to do it.
It would be between Chin and Matabuke for me.
How much do we love Matabuke, and what is the drop off between him and, say, I mean, like we talked about, it pick 90 potentially being able to still get Jordan Elliott or something along those lines?
Yeah, I think. I mean, Jake, I had talked to you back in December about Matabuke as one of my guys. I mean, I would love to have him, but at the same point in time, again, given where the board is and how it's ranked now, I would feel good passing on him per se and walking away with Jordan Elliott later, or even Hamilton later, in favor of the safety.
I think we go Chin here. Feel good about it?
Yeah, I feel good.
You can play corner profile as a safety. You can do all that fun stuff back there. Bring him along. Let's bring him in. I like that pick, moving back for him. Let's pause it right. Pick 70, Dolphins. So gone from the board. Ashton Davis is gone. So the next corner there, the next safety that we were kind of talking about, gone. A little run on defensive ends with Curtis Weaver going the pick after us and Okwara going after that. First tight end, I think, off the board is Cole Met. So starting the 3rd round, Yang goes to the Bengals, which is a good pick for them at that spot. Ashton Davis, Josh Uche there goes to the Lions. Troutman goes the pick before Miami. So we're pick 70. We're 4 picks away from ours. on the board still. Michael Pittman's still on the board. You're obviously going to have, I believe, unless I'm missing something, Elliott is still on the board at safety. Burgess is still on the board. And wide receiver guys that we're interested in. Brian Edwards is still on the board, South Carolina. Van Jefferson from Florida. KJ Hill. Pittman is still the prize at that position right now. So
I think it's a huge drop-off.
I do think after Pittman it is a big drop-off. I'm with you. Some guys later, like Tyler Johnson, are interesting to me, or Devin DuVernay is interesting to me too, but I don't like them here. So I don't want to move up. I still think I'm fine, and we play it out just a few picks away. You guys okay with that?
Yep.
All right. Brendan, you cool with that? I didn't want to cut you off if you want to move up.
I wish that I knew if any of these teams already took a wide receiver. I would feel more comfortable if I knew.
Move down a little bit?
What I mean is I'm worried about the Dolphins, Chargers, Cardinals, or Jags taking a wide receiver. Like if they didn't already take a wide receiver, then they'll take one here. But
let's check them. Let's go to let's see if we can do this by team. Probably can't. We'll just scroll through. What is Miami taking? I know they took Epinesa there. They took Ruiz, which is a smart pick for them. Delpit, which is interesting at 18, all the way down.
They might not need one though.
They still, I think that who did they re-signed? What's his name? Louisville product. What was his name? They re-signed
Devontae Parker.
Yeah.
Didn't the Cardinals just net somebody too in a trade? Right? They got
a decent wide receiver there.
Yeah. True. Okay. Yeah. I worry about the Jags. The Jags have taken a wide receiver a bunch of times in these.
This is true. Have they taken one? I know they took Tua. Have they taken one at any point? They took Rager. So
they did. I think we're good.
I think we're good.
Agreed.
So let's run it. We're going to resume it. Dancer, Bryce Hawk. All right, we're up. So now the debate becomes the sixth. So the highest ranked player on the Draft Network's board here is Raekwon Davis from Alabama. Then the second highest is Davon Hamilton from Ohio State. And then the highest by far wide receiver left on the board still is Michael Pittman, USC. And then if you're looking at an edge, Darrell Taylor, Tennessee is available. Linebacker, because we do need that at linebacker. Akeem Davis guy, they're still there from Appalachian State. And then we get into Jordan Elliott territory there at the 90th ranked player on the board. So, Brendan, you hit leadoff, man. Who do you really want here, considering that our next pick is not in the next 15 or so picks? I think we got pick 105 from Minnesota, something like that. It's still a good ways off.
Yeah, I'm most comfortable with Pittman. I think it's important also. I've seen a lot of people project like slot types to the Browns. I think it's important for people to realize, for one, Jarvis Landry is primarily a slot receiver when they're in 11 personnel. So the player that they take needs to either have versatility to play inside or outside, or to be primarily an outside guy. I think Pittman fits that. Also, they're going to be a heavy 12 personnel team. We all know that. So when you're in 12 personnel, what are your two wide receivers? They're typically like outside guys, Mm-hmm. Just think about it. Like they're both on the outside because you've got two tight ends on the field. So this wide receiver that they take for the long term of the team needs to be a guy that can play outside and win outside. I think as we get further down this draft board, it's going to be a lot more guys that are just pigeonholed as slot guys, like KJ Hill. Devin DuVernay seems more like a slot guy. I think as you keep going down, the athleticism drops off and the guys are more pigeonholed into specific roles. And I think that adding a guy like Pittman with the versatility, ability to win outside, especially with OBJ and Landry both, they might not be back. Like, who knows with their rehab and all that stuff. But I think for the long term, you need that wide receiver. He's the best on the board. I would definitely take him here.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. Brendan, you and I talked about it on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, the importance of wide receiver. And I think, you sort of sold me on the idea of definitely investing in the position. I like Pittman. I also like later on Colin Johnson, but I think the delta between the two is pretty vast. So I also like a couple of the other later interior defensive linemen. And I think by the time we get around to our next pick, they may be around. So I'm down to take Pittman. I like the idea of taking a wide receiver early in this class and just letting him develop for the future. So I'm down for that.
Like, I think Michael Pittman's the best player on the board. I don't think that I can argue that. I certainly think that. Whether they want to go that route or if they decided that they really don't think that the guy that they love, like, I think they're going to take who they love. Obviously, we love Jordan Elliott is what's left on this defensive tackle grouping. I'm not sure he will be there at our next pick. So that's worth considering. But in this situation, I would probably go Elliott, but I could also be, as people are in a draft room, talked into the best player available for the right reasons. And I'm okay with Pittman here. So I say we take Pittman. Cool with that?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. All right, so we're going to draft, and then we will see what is there when we get to our pick. Because I'm not moving up. I don't want to move up.
Right. We're pick
Jordan
97.
Elliott is gone at pick 83, by the way.
Who was gone at 83?
Elliott is off the board.
Okay.
Yep. So names of interest: Willie Gay, a linebacker, Mississippi State, is of interest to the Rams at 84. Jordan Elliott is gone at pick 83. Davon Hamilton goes to the Bucs at 76. We are Ben Barch, St. John tackle there goes 90. Interesting. Okay, so Browns met with Jalen Hurts. He's available, so it's interesting. But here's where my mind goes. I really like Logan Wilson, and I think they need a linebacker, and I think he plays fast. He is production that meets testing guy, and I'm very interested in him here. I know a lot of people like Troy Dye as well, and there's some others like Joe Bacci that people really like as well.
Davion Taylor.
Davion Taylor
really
is
good
another
athlete,
one.
good cover skills like that.
Yes.
He intrigues me a lot a little bit later on.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Interior defensive line guys that are left is Laurel Murchison from NC State, Likai Fotu from Utah, and I'm just looking at some guys that have stood out to me. McTelvin, I think is it pronounced Agam or Agam?
I don't know.
No, Brendan, you tell us.
Yeah,
I don't know.
People have liked him. So if we look at the big board rankings for players that are still available, Shadiq Charles from LSU is of interest. We're not going to pay attention to quarterbacks. I don't think they take one. Benjamin, Brian Edwards, South Carolina, Kevon Wallace, a safety from Clemson, Logan Wilson ends the top 100 there. Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in what you guys think. We have pick 97, then we pick again 105, then we pick 115. So we got to run here. So, we've taken an offensive tackle we feel good about, a safety we feel good about, and a dynamic a receiver there that we feel good about at 74. So, let's throw it open here. You guys tell me what you want to pick. Mike, you go first.
Let me see what we got on the board at safety and cornerback real quick.
Okay. There's your safety group.
And then let me see the cornerback group, because I know we're going to want to come out of here with a nickel.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how early we want to prioritize that, but I could be talked into Meek Robertson. I really like him in that nickel spot. I think he's versatile as well. He could probably play strong safety. Really liked his film. But at the same point in time, there was a big run on interior defensive line that I didn't expect. So I think we sort of shot ourselves in the foot, per se. I think a lot of these guys now are, just developmental at best and or, very one-dimensional. So,
there's edge too. We certainly need an edge in Cleveland at some point too. So.
And I love Alex Highsmith. He's a guy I really like. But I don't know, Brendan. What are you thinking about at this position right now?
I think let me see the whole list.
I think if we're looking at who's got the most depth available at the position, it's linebacker. Guys that we like.
It does look that way, yeah.
Bacci's a good football player. Marcus Bailey, good player. Injury issues, obviously, but another good football player. Davion Taylor, obviously, good football player too.
I think Edge has a couple guys like Willikis and Highsmith. I'm intrigued by either. I would like to probably come out of this with either one of those two. That would be a priority, but we do have 3 picks coming up here, so we don't necessarily have to take that guy right here. It could be at 105. It could be at the following one, but I'd like to.
The guy that I think gets snatched up quick is Meek Robertson. I think he's going to.
Yeah, I think you guys know that I'm very, I lean toward coverage. Like, I think just coverage is just so important. You need a lot of good cover players. You can't have you can't have one player that's a black hole in coverage, because they're just going to get picked on and picked on and picked on. I think the Browns need to keep adding cover players. I'm with you guys. I think Amik Robertson he profiles as a guy that's going to be able to give them quality play at nickel pretty quickly. It would allow, it allows Johnson to compete with Greedy Williams or play outside and also inside. It just gives them a lot more versatility, depth, flexibility. So, yeah, I'm on board with that if you guys are confident that he's the best on the board at this point.
Yeah, I'm fine with it, especially considering how quickly we come up again here for 3 straight. So I think he makes sense here, and he fills a definite need for the future, so we'll take him. Nice. Coming up to – there goes a couple. So, guys, the next defensive interior lineman, Murchison, is gone, and Logan Wilson goes 103 to the Eagles, and we're up again. So top players still available. Still the 2 quarterbacks are sitting there. And kind of the same names that would be interested. Troy Dye is an interesting sort of name. And there's 3 edge players, probably 4 edge players. I think we kind of narrow it down to edge here, personally. I think that there's some good football players here, whether it's Highsmith or Willikes. I like Kenny Willikes a lot. I think he's a good player, man.
Yeah.
Production's off the charts. I don't know. I mean, we can look at safety again. Some of the same names are still there. Think linebacker, there's some names that are still there.
So with our picks, is there like a huge – does it go from 115 all the way to 187? Is that what it is? I know that eventually there's this huge drop where we're not going to have a pick for a long time.
I believe so. I think after 115 would be the pick from the Texans, and that's where the drop-off happens. Right? Am I wrong about that?
Yeah,
I think so.
I think that's it. I wish it would show us all of our picks, but we don't get to see them, so I don't exactly know.
So can we see my picks again, just for a second?
Of course.
So, for a second, third, and this is 4th.
Yeah, I think based on the board, edge is the lightest, meaning, a lot of the guys we like are near the top. When we look at linebacker, there's other guys, versatile guys that are further down the depth of the ranking. So I'm not against taking a guy like Willikes or Highsmith here. If you want to call it a reach per se, based on the board, you can call it that. But I think if you're looking at filling the need with a talented player, I think both of those guys make sense. And then we could circle back to, a coverage linebacker with pick 115.
I'm certainly fine with that.
I'm on board.
Deciding, do we like Highsmith or Willikes more? That's the question.
That's the question.
Well, talk me into Highsmith. Who you guys who like him? I think, Mike, you said you really like him. What makes him a better player than Willikes in your opinion?
So I have a one-dimensional opinion on this just because I haven't really dove into Kenny that much. But Alex reminds me of Max Crosby a lot last year, and just a super explosive, dynamic athlete with good production, kind of falling into the 3rd round. But I think he's going to have the ability to come in and he just is going to produce. I think he showed some versatility in his pass rush moves. He's got a spin. He's got the club swim. He's got a bunch of different moves that he can utilize to get free and get to the quarterback. So he's a guy I like, but I haven't looked at Kenny. So I'll kick it back over to Brendan and to you to wrap about that.
Yeah, I just know that Willick is, like Jake said, really productive player, high motor. I think he had a good pass rush grade as well. But I've been intrigued by Highsmith as well for all the reasons you said. I've just kind of been targeting them in all these mocks that I do, and it's just either or. If one goes, I take the other. If the other one goes, I take. So, what do you think, Jake?
I mean, does Willikes has an injury history, right? Doesn't he have an ACL? Or am I wrong on that? I know he had some injury that popped off at some point. I was wondering which one of the two has sort of a clean injury history. Because I thought I read something about Willikes or whatever you pronounce that last name. I think I thought I had read something about that. That would obviously make a difference here in a tight one. I mean, I'm fine with Highsmith. I'm certainly fine with him if he's been healthy.
Yeah, I mean, an obvious question with Highsmith is level of competition. He played at Charlotte.
Absolutely.
That's always going to be a question.
Yeah, I'm looking for the injury right now to see who had what.
Willikis, I mean, he played 757 snaps this past year, 787 the year before, and 599 the year before that.
So
His freshman year, he only played 4 snaps, so that might have been.
He's a little older too, right? He had redshirt year, so he comes in
senior.
at 24.
Oh, he's older.
Yeah, I think he comes in at 24, which is of particular interest, especially. What is Highsmith's age here, draft, or his date of birth? Is he'll turn in the year, so 97 to 17 is 20. He'll turn 23, right? Yeah,
so
he'll turn 23. Both a little older. So who comes in and who's ready to play? Do you guys feel like Highsmith can come in right away and play and be a rotational piece that is impactful, or do you think Willikis comes in and Willikis or whatever comes in and is more impactful? I vote Willikis. That's just me. But like I said, if you want to pound the table here for Highsmith, I'll take him. I mean, he can be your guy.
Here's my bid for Highsmith, and that is he's got a lot of the traits that you want. He's just lacking a little bit of the bulk. And if we're being realistic about the situation that we're living in right now, there may not be a 2020 season. So if you can give him a couple years to fill out, if you will, or a year and a half to fill out, he may be – I don't know. That's just a long-term play with that, a long-term argument for him. Whereas, I don't know about Kenny, so I'll defer to Brendan on that. But my vote is for Alex here.
So I've got to break the tie.
Yeah, dude. I mean, and he's right. You think about it. If in that situation we miss football this year, which is very feasible, you're looking at him playing his rookie year at 25. So
that's a good point. And that may be a detractor for both of them, to be honest, at this point in this position. Sure. If they're both going to be at that age, we may want to consider something else, but I don't want to ruin the momentum we have.
Yeah.
I know Anai is just not the type of athlete that I think we're all interested in.
Can you
click on Willikis? Just click on him. Let's just see what he's going to be. 23 also.
Look like they come into the same age. I don't know where I was seeing that.
Yeah, yeah. So he's the same age.
Nice job by me.
I'm going to vote for Willikis. I like guys. I just think that he's going to have a long, productive career. This might not be a player that necessarily is ever a starter, but I like the idea of just adding a solid guy that's going to be a rotational depth piece for a long time, kind of like a Carl Nassib type guy. I think just the effort, the hustle. I mean, Carl Nassib, he's a good player, not great player, but like he just got paid $24 million from the Raiders. He's on his second contract now, so that's kind of how I see him.
All right, that settles it. I think we put our opinions out there. I like that we split it, and let's make it. All right, pick 115. If we review our picks so far, we just picked in round 3, Amik Robertson and Kenny Willikis, right? Or Willikis, or whatever you say. It's a fantastic last name. Just try to learn these a little bit. Let's look at what's available. There is only one player inside the top 100, which is Jake Fromm from Georgia. Troy Dye's the first player available of interest, a linebacker at 103, Oregon product. Alohi Gilman is there from Notre Dame as safety, and then a couple 3 straight edges. Our guy Alex Highsmith is still there. Tight end Thaddeus Moss is still there. And we'll just kind of go from there and let's see what we think. I mean, we certainly know we want a linebacker at some point. So we'll see what's here and what aligns. We need an interior defensive lineman player at some point too. Talk to me, guys. What are you thinking here?
I'm thinking 2 guys that I would target here would be Davion Taylor and Geno Stone. We glossed over both those guys a little bit ago. I know after these next 2 picks, there's going to be a huge drop off until the 6th round. I think there's over 50 picks between the Browns' 5th round pick and the 6th round pick. So if we decide as a collective to target like a couple guys, or maybe it's different players that you guys really love, but I think we need to kind of set our sights on a couple positions or players specifically that we want to come out of these next 2 picks with. because from there, it's unlikely that any of our guys we really like that are left are going to be there in the 6th and 7th round.
Good point.
Yeah,
all right.
I agree.
Mike?
I think looking at what's available on our needs, I should say, we need linebacker, and we definitely need to look at interior defensive line. So I think those are the two stacks that I would take a look at first. And again, I don't know how good I feel about the interior defensive line at this point. So
yeah, of those names, that is the position I'm more inclined to wait till round 6 or 7. I get that it is a need, and I'm 100% on board with that, but sometimes you just can't force it if you don't love any of the names, and you got to just take the talent that fits for the long term. There will be another draft in a year, and if the Browns were to take like a defensive lineman late or miss out on one, you invite all the top undrafted free agent defensive tackles and say, hey, you're going to have a chance to compete, to rotate in and be a fixture for us. You're going to have a chance. So that's always an option. It doesn't just end with round 7. There's other opportunities to address that long term.
Yeah, I'm with it. I mean, those two positions make the most sense. I really like Geno Stone quite a bit. I certainly know that they need a linebacker. The guy I really liked has been selected, but I'm open to discussion on 3 that I think are interesting: are Batchy, Bailey, and Taylor, that I think are worth discussing. And but they got to get a linebacker at some point in the next 3 picks before they hit the long haul. So maybe even 2. I could be talking to 2. Depends on what they do leading up to this. If they go out and get somebody, or maybe they intend to play the long game and sign somebody late summer like they did with what's his name?
Kendricks.
Kendricks, yes, good, thank you. So let's talk. Who do you think is, if we're pounding the table? I mean, I certainly think Davion Taylor's an interesting prospect. He's young. He's only going to be 22, I think, 23 maybe. But he's got.
And he's relatively raw.
Yeah.
Super athletic, but relatively raw, new to the position.
His profile favors coverage.
New to football.
Am I wrong about that?
New to football. Yes.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and I think that's what they need to prioritize at linebacker right now, given the bodies on the roster, the way that they played in coverage last year, like the addition of Goodson. I mean, they're going to have to have at least some linebackers that can cover.
What do we know about Batchy? Anybody like him? Have you studied him? Anybody?
I've heard a lot about him because he's from Berea Mid Park, and I coach with coaches that coached against him. So he was a big deal coming out of high school. He got suspended the back half of last year for steroids, so that's really encouraging. But he's a plugger. I mean, he's like the prototypical Mike linebacker. I don't know if he's going to be much of a cover guy, but I know he had a lot of tackles and the typical production. But I don't know if he's really what we're necessarily looking for.
Yeah, I saw him at the combine too. I wasn't impressed with how he moved. I didn't think he was very quick or agile. I didn't think he was good side to side. So I mean, that's just my perception based on what I saw there.
And
Bailey's 2 major knee injuries. I mean, the video just came out today or yesterday, right, of him moving through bags and moving well, but it's like, you're still spending a premium pick here on that player. It's certainly tough to feel comfortable taking a guy without really getting a ton of time to look at the knees but I'm saying this in general. I think Bailey slides. He didn't get drafted. I wouldn't be surprised. So,
do you guys have any thoughts on? Do you guys have any thoughts on Troy Dye? I know that like Evan Weaver just seems like more of a super productive, again, like a thumper, like a 2-down type guy seems to me. As far as Dye, I've seen him a little bit. He's looks like an athletic player. Not sure about like the instincts and things like that, but that kind of what I just said kind of aligns with what that said about the processing. But sure. Wondered what you guys think of him.
I've seen some clips where he's just really confused, and doesn't read things the way he needs to read things, but he's athletic enough to make up for some things at that level. How that pans out in the NFL, I'm not sure. He's an upside guy that I think you can mold, and I certainly think he fits sort of the competition at the weak side for Mac Wilson. But I don't know. I don't love him. Do I love him? No, I don't know. And this is where I think if you guys are really into Taylor, I can be talked into him. So I'm gonna pass on being the guy making the decision here. I do think it's a linebacker, just a matter of which one we like the most.
Do we have a date of birth on Taylor?
Yeah, 98 is 85, 98. So yeah, still.
Okay.
We'll turn 22. So young.
And I think he just started playing football too. So
really?
I mean, I think he didn't play football until college, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm impressed with his ability to do what he's done this quickly, but obviously that puts into question, his experience. I love him as a coverage linebacker. It seems that that's what we're trying to get here is a guy who's gonna be able to cover. So,
yeah, I just looked at his grades, and his coverage grade was very, very poor. I didn't realize that. I hadn't looked him up on PFF. Looked up his grades previously, and I wondered what it said, and his grades were kind of scary, honestly, like in the 50s, and you really don't want to see that for a guy that's coming into the NFL.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. Well, that's what the tool's all about. I mean, he's a high-end athlete. He's a 9 RAS score guy. He's a 4.49, which is impressive. He broad jumps over 10 feet. He's 35 vertical. Not a good size guy. Just barely over 6 foot and 225. So on the lower side of those things. But
Dye's grades are much better. Yeah. Sorry. But
I'm fine with Dye. I just don't. I don't love him, but if you're looking for someone who can compete at the weak side and be an athlete, there, I certainly think he makes some sense. I'm not in love with him as a prospect, but I do think he can do some of those things that are vital to the position.
Yeah, and plus it's round 4. I remember at times where he was talked about as like a round 2 or round 3 type guy. So getting him in round 4. Yeah, I definitely see the athletic ability, and it looks like he's been consistent throughout his career. He's played 3,307 snaps in his career. That's a lot of snaps in 4 years. Consistent grades, PFF grades, coverage grades in the high 70s, 2 of the 4 years, in the 70s every year. So I think I lean toward that now that I had seen some of the Davion Taylor hype from some, people that I trust, and I'm not saying he's not the guy, but I think Dye just makes more sense at this value.
I think we go Dye. It probably, you're trusting what his production has been against. The Pac-12 is not the best conference in the country, but it's a Power 5, and I think it makes sense. I think you're doing a little less projection than you are with Taylor, with a guy who's still. I think Dye is still pretty young too, right? Well, no, he's a little older. He will actually turn 24, so he is an older prospect.
Yeah,
but it doesn't scare me.
I think that's okay. It's round 4.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's run it with Dye. I'm fine with that. So now we wait. We got a pretty long process until we're up again.
So that was the pick before the big drop.
The Geno Stone is gone.
Yeah, that was a big – okay.
Yeah. Some of the guys I was still interested in have been swept up.
Can we go to our picks real quick? Take a look at what we have so far. All right.
It looks good when you look at it like that.
It sure does.
Yeah, it does.
It sure does. Okay, so now we have 2 picks left. Now we're looking at just guys that have some projection. And if you see somebody you really like, holler it out. We'll look at positions of need still. I always thought Josh Kelly was an interesting zone running type
Yeah.
running back. I don't know
I
how
like him.
set – I like him a lot in terms of guys.
Mhm.
I don't know if they're set to really want a guy there, but he's interesting. None of these tight ends do much for me. No, not at all. You can look at interior O-line and see if there's anyone that does anything for you there.
There's one guy that I've been talking about a lot is Gage Cervenka from Clemson. He's played center. He's played guard. He kept the quarterback clean. I don't think he let a sack up the entire season or some crazy stat like that. He set the school record for bench press, and I know that doesn't translate on the field, but he's a strong guy. He's a wrestler, 4-time state champion wrestler. So he's just got good grappling skills, and you watch him on tape, he's the same way. But I don't know if we're interested in round 6 in a guy like that, but he is versatile.
What does grades look like, Brendan? I'm sure you're pulling that up, and I was just curious.
Yeah, I was just curious what it looks like. Just a second. Pass block grade 65, so it's not like fantastic. It's not, it's round 6. I mean,
right.
It's tough. I would tend to say that just based on the grades, we could probably do better at this point, but that's not the whole picture. There's always context.
Right. So there's 2 guys here in cornerback group that have my eye, Neville Clark and Reggie Robinson II. I like both of those guys a lot. I think they have got some good upside. I don't know how you guys feel about them, but yeah.
I think people talking about Reggie Robinson a lot lately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go back to the whole thing here. None of the other names totally stick out to me. I don't know if you guys seen. I mean, Juju Hughes is a guy that you and I both kind of like. Mike, you sent me some film with him. He's an interesting player.
I like him. What
feels like a guy who will be around later too. Obviously, he's kind of down on their board.
Right.
Some good movement skills, though.
I might be inclined to look at what's the interior defensive line group look like right now too.
I don't know if anyone stands out to you guys. I don't. No one's a big standout guy to me.
I've always liked Robert Landers a lot. I mean, I've always just been a huge fan of him. Like, that's an Ohio State bias, kind of, because I've always watched Ohio State play, but he's made plays for the past 3 years for Ohio State. Like, he's been like dominant at times, especially even 2 years ago. I remember. It's
off the ball fat, and I'm not saying that because it's there, but I do know that he's a penetrator. He's not very big, but he has he's a gap wiggle guy that can get through and a play gets made. And I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to him here. I mean, you're looking at guys that could potentially be into your roster guys at this point. I mean, he'll late in the year, if they play this year, will turn 24. I can be talked into that.
Another guy who I think they've got really low on their board that I like, and I've had him in my draft recently too, is Broderick Washington. He tested really well. He's going to be way down there. I think he's right there. Yeah, he tested really well though, and I know Lance Zierling really likes what he saw from them. So I mean, again, based on their board, he probably looks like a dude that's going to come in and might be a priority free agent or a 7th round pick. But I watched a little bit of his tape, and he's got some juice.
I dig it. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to put this pick in your guys' lap. I personally think Reggie Robinson, from some of the things I've seen, is very intriguing value-wise at this point. But I can be talked into anybody that you guys are interested in. A lot of people mock Levante Taylor, get some attention. Seems like he fell off the face of the earth in Florida State.
They're not like fantastic grades, but they're solid, good grades for a 6th round pick, I would say. So if you guys want to go that direction, I'm open to it.
Let's do it. We'll take him. I think they need to stockpile cover players and hit on some of them. So,
for sure.
All right. I'll edit this up a little bit and tighten it up, but we'll probably leave your pitch there, Mike, about who he is as a player, and we'll run with it. All right, so we're going to take Reggie Robinson in the 6th, make it a 3 DB draft, which is okay because there's still a lot of mystery about where that group is going. And we will look at, in my opinion, if Landers is still there in the 7th round, I'm very intrigued at that point. We'll see if he's still there. He might end up getting swiped before we get there. And he's gone.
For interest's sake, the Lance Zierling's comp for Broderick Washington is Andrew Billings.
That's fascinating.
Wow.
Oh, let's have that discussion again. I mean, at this point, I would probably – let's see what's out there. If there's anybody that jumps to a lot of wide receivers.
You just, go down a little bit, yeah.
Sure.
Jordan Fuller is still there as, that catches my eye, but I've never thought he's not like a great player. He was a solid college player.
And I love the work that these guys do, and that's the Draft Network. But I also, it's also hard to scout all these different players. I'm not so sure how tight the back end of their draft order is. I just wouldn't be surprised if guys like that we're talking about that we like are gone already or are a lot higher up on NFL teams' boards. But this year is going to be different.
Well, these picks kind of go to people in the room who have a feeling about a player. If you like, Mike, if you're into Washington, that's your pick. Let's run it.
Yeah, is he the guy you like the most of all those players?
He's the one guy that out of the group of defensive tackles here, I like him a lot. Yeah, but again, I'm not gonna pound the table for him if there's some guy that you guys want in a different position, but we haven't taken an interior defensive lineman yet. So
yeah,
I think he's kind of worth it if we want to prioritize him before free agency, get him in the clubhouse, and then go from there.
Right. It sounds like a guy that we would be targeting as a priority undrafted free agent, so we might as well just take him in the 7th round. I'm on board with it.
Yep, me too. Especially if you're getting a comp of a guy that we expect to be a contributing player to this defensive line this year. So I'm in. We're going to take him, and our draft is complete. So we took Andrew Thomas at 10. We traded out of 41, and we moved back with Minnesota. See if we can get to my picks here. And we jumped back to 58, got Jeremy Chin, the safety we expect to be a big player over time, a very athletic football player. At 74, we liked Michael Pittman. I think he's going to be a good wide receiver. I think he's gone before 74, but, in this situation, he was there, and we like him. And then we take Mike Robertson as a sort of an inside player. We think he could be a nice nickel, and they need that player to push Kevin Johnson, and they got a young guy to develop there. Then you're starting to look at guys that you could just develop. Kenny Willekes is a guy that we think could be a rotational edge. Troy Dye, I think, could be a competing player at will. Take a shot on a couple guys here at the end, Reggie Robinson from Tulsa, and then Broderick Washington, Texas Tech. Look, we obviously probably would have loved to have gotten an interior defensive line player earlier. It didn't work out. When pick 97 came around, Jordan Elliott, right, was gone at that point. And, we're not going to stretch out for guys that we don't love and force picks. And this is what they're going to do. The Browns board will do as well. They'll find positions they need, but they're not going to reach for positions at all. I could see them coming out of this draft with 2 linebackers if they love 2 guys. I could see them just taking one and playing the long game and trying to get a veteran later on as the season approaches or whenever the season approaches. So, but this is fun. This is good. We came out with it, I think, with a good group of guys that could contribute both right away and over the long haul of rookie contracts. So I feel good. And any closing statements, fellas, about how you feel about this draft? Brendan, you go first.
Yeah, I feel good about it. I think we got, like you said, I think 4 or 5 guys that you hope can compete and contribute early on in a smaller sample size, maybe even 5 players, if you're just being – or 6 players, I should say. Those first 6, you hope, hey, come in and compete, maybe earn a spot, surprise us if an injury happens, step on the field. I like it. It looks good right now with the names. Maybe in 3 years it looks horrible. Maybe we look like geniuses in 3 years. That's the thing with the draft. You just never know. So much of this always comes down to, the coaching and the development and all those other things that we're not always privy to as far as the character of the players. But I feel good about this just on paper.
Yeah, I think as we kind of hashed out the needs and the talent of these guys, I think we've landed in good places for the team. We addressed a lot of the needs that we have. I think we've got guys that have a lot of good potential. And so, yeah, I think this worked out really well. And I just enjoy the process of going back and forth with you guys and kind of simulating what it would be like to be in the draft room. And guys have different, ideas of players they like and all that good stuff. So that's what makes this so much fun for me. But, yeah, we did a great job. I like this draft.
Yeah, this is good. I think that there were some opportunities for guys that you like, and they get taken because that's what happens. Smart teams are out there other than Cleveland, so you're going to have to watch guys go, and I felt like this is one of the first drafts where I said, oh, that guy's gone, didn't expect him to be gone, and that happens on draft day. So I find that fun. This is good, and we will get this posted here over the coming days. We're recording this on Sunday night. God, it's late. We're staying up real late East time. Mike out there in Hawaii, it's like dinner time. We're cutting off his dinner, but no, this is fun. We'll get this up on the Browns Film Breakdown YouTube channel. If you're listening to this audio, obviously it's on the Browns Film Breakdown podcast, and give us your feedback. If you're watching this on YouTube, shout at us in the comments, and if you're listening to this on the podcast, give us some feedback to the Twitter handle too. We're always open to going deeper into why we think a player fits more or less, or why we passed on this guy should we not have. Those discussions are fun. So, again, fellas, Brendan, thank you. Mike, thank you for joining me, man, staying up late to do this. I appreciate it, fellas.
Thank you. Have a good night, guys.
Yeah, guys, thank you very much. Take it easy.
All right. Thanks, fellas. Thanks for listening. We'll be back later this week with another podcast. You can obviously find those on the Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff. And we're probably trying to do one more of these before the draft. I think it's pretty fun, and we'll get a clearer picture if the Browns sign any more free agents heading into that time. So until then, signing out. Go Browns.